coming in on the trouble alert.
Super friends, I am Lycan of planet Santa. Solar flares from our double sun are ravaging Santa. Only you can help before it is too late.
Santar is trillions of light years from Earth. We'll have to leave immediately.
There's no need, Superman. The Legion of Good is already on the way. We'll take care of the Santar's emergency and prove to you once and for all that we are good.
Those fools. We'll show them we're good, all right. Good at conquering justice.
Meanwhile, in the future, at the Hall of Justice, I wonder how our newly changed Legion of Good is doing.
It's the trouble alert.
Super friends, I don't understand. Why haven't you come? You could have helped us, but now it's too late.
The Legion of Doom. We should have known better.
We've got to get to Santar and see if we can be of any help.
Light years away at the planet Santar.
It's no use, super friends. Our planet is finished.
If it weren't for the Legion of Doom, we could have saved Santar.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 38 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for September 23rd, 2016. I'm your podcast host, Josh Kiser, and joining me in the studio today, Mr. Josh Haddix.
What's going on, everybody?
And Mr. Kyle Hoagland.
How are y'all doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing on this?
That was more of like
evening?
a question for the audience, not really so much you, but...
Well, you know what? The audience can't respond to you right now. You know who can? Me. So...
I can, no, I feel it. It's palpitating. It's coming through the screen and into my headset. I hear the fans, and they hear me. I'm also in a good mood because I had mac and cheese for dinner.
You know, I had some mac and cheese with my dinner as a side for my steak that I made, so...
Like, you make Kraft mac and cheese with steak?
No, I made like Bob Evans like side dish macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
You know?
Like the stuff that you get like in the deli section in the store.
Right, exactly. Threw that on there.
I mean, you're keeping it classy. I find it as an adult, as much as I love mac and cheese, if you're going to have a steak, I feel like Kraft like takes it down a couple notches these days.
Right.
When you're a kid, it's fine.
I thought, you know, it would be nice to raise the stakes and bring a better macaroni and cheese with as a side.
Dude, you need to craft a better joke than that, okay?
Food.
Nice. Well
Nice.
done there, Hoagland. Coming up in today's podcast, we are going to talk about the future of the DC movie universe as we enter in the third week of our DC movie universe topic. We'll kind of break down the movies that we know that are coming out, as well as kind of some predictions of what we think they might be doing, and maybe a little bit of our fanboy wishes and things like that, what we hope they might do.
Well, it's fan person, all right? It's 2016, Kiser.
Well, we are all boys, I think, right? So I was referring to
I identify
ourselves.
as a male, yes. I do.
So I thought fanboy would be appropriate for the three of us. I hope I didn't take any liberties with that, but I thought it was a fair assumption.
I'm a fan girl myself.
See what I mean? So you can't assume things, Kiser. We don't know what kind of changes and, you know, experiences and things that Haddix is going through, and I feel like you owe him an apology, as well as the other, you know, those are, you know, scared or, you know, just, they want to be themselves. And you throwing out words like fanboy, like, we've lost so many fans already because of that.
Did we lose
Twitter's
fanboys?
blowing up, dude. Twitter is blowing up.
Yeah, feel free to reach out at me on Twitter at pseudonerdpod. Go to pseudonerdpod.com to yell at any of us if we are offensive to you in any way.
A public apology to come very, very soon.
Haddix, I'm sure you are a wonderful woman, much like Wonder Woman, which would be the first movie coming up for the DC universe.
Hey-oh.
We can still do it. He's still got it.
I still have it. We're not going to get into too much detail with all of the movies that are coming out, because a lot of them we don't know much about, to be honest. But we can kind of talk about some of the bigger ones, maybe little points here and there that we think. And ultimately, I think the major ones we're going to focus on that we know about will be the Justice League movie, because that's sort of where everything seems to be heading. But Wonder Woman's the next movie to be coming out. I think they're following that Marvel formula of 2 movies a year. And Wonder Woman's the next one. Obviously, she was introduced in Batman vs. Superman. So, do you know, Haddix, if this, or Hougie too, I suppose. I just asked Haddix directly because he's the DC fan person. If this movie is a prequel,
it is an origin story for Wonder Woman.
It is an origin story, okay. So it actually is going to take place before Batman vs. Superman? Entirely?
From what I've heard, yes. Now, they might do... I think it's going to be kind of the story of... For
Wonder Woman?
That's seen it, or anyone that's seen... This guy, I'll tell you what. For anyone that's seen Batman vs. Superman, she kind of, like, stopped being a superhero... until, the end of that movie. So I think it's going to kind of be the story of how she got to that point. So years ago. No, I mean, I don't know if they'll jump to the present at times or maybe at the end of the movie. I kind of hope that there's a little time, kind of how they did at the beginning of Batman vs. Superman, where Bruce Wayne was running through the city while it was getting destroyed, which was like the scene from Man of Steel. Right. I kind of hope they do a little bit of something like that, but...
Like showing her in the city as like Superman and Zod are fighting.
She's there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like maybe she's at like the diner or something having tea or something.
Some shawarma.
Shawarma. Damn it, nice Hougie.
I think it would be interesting if they expand on the original pictures that Bruce Wayne saw of her, like out in like Russia or Germany.
Well, you figure that's got to take place because that's got Chris Pine in the picture, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, he's supposed to play. I want to say Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor. I was like Steve Rogers, but that's not correct.
Yeah, Steve Trevor.
Steve Trevor, which is just like
a bro name. Do we? I feel like we talked about this. Like how much of a bro name is Steve Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, for like superheroes, it's just such a. I mean, not that he's like a superhero, but like it's just such a generic name to be like the love interest of Wonder Woman.
You can't trust people with 2 first names.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, right? Preaching to the choir there.
I'm looking forward to the movie. It looks like it'll be at the very least. As long as it's as good as the rest of the movies that are coming out, then I think the only thing that's going to hurt it is writing. I don't think the casting of it's going to be bad.
Well, I give you that. I do think it has to be better than what's come out, and I think the perception, because Wonder Woman was written so well in Batman vs. Superman and people enjoyed it so much, that I think they're going to go into it giving it the Marvel treatment, in that they're going to enjoy the movie almost regardless of what happens, because it's not the Zack Snyder treatment that the rest of the movies have gotten. So I do think it's going to be the best rated movie out of any of the new DC movies that's come out. I don't know. Regardless of whether it deserves it or not, I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I could definitely see this being the best movie of the 3, up to this point.
Well, I was referring to Suicide Squad in that too. So
I guess of the 4, yeah.
Of the 4.
Of the 4.
Only other thing I'll say about this is they better have her theme music in there, because that theme is badass.
So awesome, dude.
I'll be honest, I don't recall the theme music.
Oh, it made the movie. It's probably the best part of the movie.
It was like sort of like an electric guitar kind of sound. There was like a riff to it. It was really a cool theme.
Yeah.
Haddix, you have some of the weirdest. The last 2 podcasts you were talking about like your favorite parts of movies, and like how you talked about the bar scene with Harley Quinn was like your favorite scene.
Dude, that was an awesome scene, dude. It's those little scenes like what?
You're the reason why Family Feud can never have 100% as far as like top answers on the board, because you always have some jabroni. It's like, what's your favorite part of the movie? It's like, oh yeah, the bar scene.
I'm a leader.
It's like you give a doctor a blank a day keeps the doctor away. An apple. 99 people out of 100 said apple. One other guy said
boner.
Well, all right.
Sorry. Take that for what it is. That was the first thing that popped.
For what it's worth, I think a lot of other people also enjoyed that was like the first time you see one of them. I think a lot of other people enjoyed that scene as well.
No, I mean, I thought it was a good scene too. But I think that's about all we can say about Wonder Woman at this point. They didn't. One other thing I want to make a point. Robin White from House of Cards. She's Claire Underwood. She will be in this movie as well. So I think,
the mom.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I always look forward to her performance. I think it'll be pretty good there. That's Jenna. I know. It's so weird.
She played that coked out girl that had sex with a retarded guy.
Actually, I'm sorry, not her mom. I think she's like an aunt or something like that. Sorry.
Okay. She's
unforgivable.
She's some sort of relation.
Yeah. She's Amazon. So
right. Maybe she's an Amazon Prime. Right.
Let's move on.
The next movie on here is Justice League Part 1, and this is sort of the big build up, and I say big build up, and I use that very loosely because it's not really big build up so far. It's a rushed build up that they kind of threw together from Batman vs Superman. It was almost like Batman vs Superman was Justice League prequel, and this is going to be at least Wonder Woman, and Batman trying to form the Justice League as they go around and try to get Aquaman in there and the Flash and Cyborg, I guess. Who knows? I don't know if anyone else has been confirmed in the movie as far as superheroes. Haddix, if you heard anything else?
I think the only ones that have been confirmed are the ones that we've seen.
Right, that's what I thought as well.
Yeah. There's like rumors going around that you might see some mention of a Green Lantern or something like that, but I don't think anyone, unless they're keeping it very, very close to the chest, I don't think anyone's been cast, as this superhero or something. You know what I mean?
Right. So are you happy that they're making the Justice League movie at this point?
So funny that you say that. There will be, when Justice League comes out, there will have been 4 movies, right? Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Wonder Woman,
Suicide Squad.
And Suicide Squad. And,
right.
I'll give you that Suicide Squad maybe isn't a huge part of the actual Justice League, except for the villains, and then it introduces, some main characters.
Right. I was going to say, other than Amanda Waller, who's probably in Justice League.
Shown. Yeah. When Avengers came out, there was only 5 movies. And one of them was the Incredible Hulk, which technically was a different Hulk than we get in the Avengers. So 4 movies, and 2 of those were Iron Man movies. So
you had 2 Iron Man, a Captain America,
4 and a Captain America, and so then the Avengers came out. So really, very close to the same amount of build-up. Now Marvel did it better. The build-up was better, I think, but it's not like they had 6 movies before we got Avengers. You know what I mean?
Right. That's fair. It's a good point.
I do wish they would have done it better.
I still think it just feels more rushed. And yes, I think that's because of the way they threw all the characters into so half-assed into Batman vs. Superman. If up to this point, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were the only characters in Justice League that we've seen, and maybe you have flashes of the Flash show up in Batman vs. Superman, and then maybe he reappears in Wonder Woman because, time traveling, that kind of thing. Yep. Just enough to hint, and then, Cyborg could be a post-credit thing in Wonder Woman or something like that, like if they really needed to, or Aquaman could be post-credit. And I think they could have done it better to introduce those characters coming into this movie. That said, we kind of talked about it briefly, maybe last week. Darkseid seems like he's going to be the villain, but that's not confirmed at this point. And you brought up the point, Haddix, that you would like to see him sort of keep that Thanos role of like, let's just hold him off and not make him the main villain or the villain at all in this story, in this first one.
Yeah, I hope they do. And if they decide to go with him as a villain, I hope it is, I don't know if I said this on a past podcast, but I hope it's like let's say he invades Earth or something. It's just like a push him back type of thing. Maybe like push him back through the door, the boom tube that they come through. And it's like this huge battle, and all you do is like push him back. So there's this kind of looming presence of shit, he can come back at some point. You know what I mean? And it was very tough.
It's not like
push him back.
Right. It's not like he's just defeated and well, that was it. Wrap it up.
I hope they don't defeat him. If he is the bad guy, I hope he's not defeated at the end of the movie and like, you know, dead or whatever the hell they do. You know what I mean? I hope that they at least keep that open, because he is the ultimate badass, basically.
Hougie, you agree that you don't want to see him as the main focus, or you don't want this to be his demise right here?
I think they should keep on giving subtle hints that he's coming, just kind of like in the in Batman vs Superman with Bruce Wayne's visions and things like that. I think that keep that going. I don't think we need to see Darkseid yet, but I think it makes sense it definitely makes sense that he's going to be their arch nemesis. But once again, I don't know what's on the docket for the rest of the lineup for the movies. So, I mean, I think we know that they're going to make a Justice League 2, but then, I don't know, I guess it comes down to how much movie time does Darkseid need? Are you going to introduce him maybe in one of the independent movies of the other characters? Which, by the way, I still am a firm believer that they should have at least brought maybe one more movie of like either The Flash or Aquaman and kind of introduce, because I feel like Marvel, I feel like everybody in the Avengers, except for maybe Hawkeye,
him
was
and
showcased.
Black Widow weren't really that.
Well, Black Widow was in two of the movies before the Avengers. So I mean, it's not like she wasn't Iron Man, and I thought she was at least in Iron Man 2.
I think she was just in Iron Man 2, but yeah, she was definitely
right.
You saw her. She was heavily in Iron Man 2. So
right.
Yeah. So
we're talking Hawkeye and Hulk technically had a movie, but yeah, not the same Hulk. I don't know. It definitely, they did the bare minimum. They're going to get a Wonder Woman out. They're going to get Batman. They're going to get Superman. It makes sense that the storyline is not so much the Justice League being the Justice League. It's Batman trying to recruit and create the Justice League.
Yeah, and I think something DC's been trying to do is Marvel was in a position where these characters that you know, the Iron Man, the Captain America, things like that, like, people knew them, but unless you're a comic book fan, you didn't know them that well. Like, if you asked the average Joe who Iron Man was before the movies, nobody would have known who not nobody, but nobody who was just a common person would have any idea.
He's not a household name.
You ask about a Superman, a Wonder Woman, or a Batman, like, those are well-known things. So I think DC in some ways were relying on their popularity of their main characters to, like, try to rush this through. Where Marvel had to, you can't just throw Thor out there and people are supposed to be expected to know, his backstory, things like that. So maybe that's part of the reason why they kind of felt like they could do it this way. I wonder, what are your guys' thoughts on Superman's role in the first Justice League? Because, spoiler alert, even though he was dead at the end of Batman vs. Superman, he is not dead. He will be alive, and, he's confirmed for a future Man of Steel movie, a sequel. His agent came out and said that. We don't know anything else other than that. So, it's known that he will not be dead. So do you think he has a big role in this movie? Do you think it's like one of those at the very end they try to somehow bring him back?
I'm hoping it's some type of kind of climatic moment, whether it's fighting somebody. Again, let's say the Darkseid is the bad guy. They're trying to push him back. they're failing to do so, and then boom, Superman shows up. Even if it's the last 15 minutes, I'm okay. I would rather it be like that than it's just like 10 minutes in the movie, like, oh, by the way, Superman's not dead. You know, like, oh, okay.
Well, the other alternative is you have him in the movie, but you have him in like either premonitions, visions, dreams, maybe
visions in Marvel, Hougie.
I'll rephrase. I mean, I gave other words, but I feel like he's going to be in the movie, and I think it's. I definitely agree. He should not just be like, "Hey guys, I'm back."
Yeah,
like, that would be pretty sour. But I'm okay with it being, you know, either some flashbacks or
Flash is already in the movie.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of him just showing up the last 15 minutes because I feel like that's actually more predictable, especially if Darkseid's in the movie. And to put on that, the whole predictability thing, one of the big differences between like the Avengers and Justice League was I feel like the excitement, like everybody was excited because of the other movies and like, oh, it'd be so awesome for all of them to be together. And maybe it's because they were the first to do it in recent history. So it was new and fresh. And now now DC's doing it. But I feel like now, instead of us being excited for like, oh, all these people are going to be in a movie, even though we've already seen 3 of them in one movie, and then I said the Flash and Aquaman in weird little bits, it definitely feels like more of a, like, this better be good than a, man, I can't wait for this movie, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like until DC makes a movie that was like, okay, that was good, every movie they're going to come out with is going to be well, this movie better not suck, because that's sort of been the going trend at this point.
For what it's worth, I think Marvel's kind of got to that point with their last few movies. Like, really, since Avengers 1, other than Guardians, I feel like people are letting them slide because we're waiting. But really,
they're definitely
walk out of it like, you know what, that was okay, but...
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're all fine, but people aren't hating on them. Where if it was DC making these type of movies, they would be getting all kinds of hell for it. Yeah. So it's definitely...
And personally, I think Civil War was actually one of the better ones in the series, I mean, in my own personal opinion.
I enjoyed Civil War. But I can understand some of the criticisms for it. And again, I think if the movie was made by DC with a similar plot, it would get torn apart.
Oh, it got shit on way worse, yeah.
But Marvel gets that pass, you know, so. Yeah. For me, as far as Superman goes, I'm okay. I'm with it that he can't show up for a bit. Whether that's, they bring him back at the end almost like Force Awakens, and he's sort of like the Luke Skywalker of this one, where they, the whole time maybe eventually Batman finds out like there's a way to bring him back or something, and does. That would be, I'd be okay with that, and he kind of is more set up for a part 2, or I don't know if it's part 1 and part 2. I don't know if they said it, if they called it part 1 or part 2. I thought I read it.
Well, he would
1.
obviously have to be back for his. I think the solo Superman movie might come out before the second one. I don't know.
Well, that's sure we don't have a release date for the Man of Steel 2, but I was thinking the same thing. So maybe it's not a part 1, part 2. Maybe it's like Avengers 1, Avengers 2, that kind of thing, where they're separate movies. But to me, the biggest thing is when he does come back, however they do it, if it's at the beginning of the movie, the end of the movie, whatever, if it's to help defeat Darkseid, or I liked your guys' idea you were talking about last week, without Superman, it could be a Legion of Doom. It can be that kind of, more humanoid villains, less alien kind of huge powers. But when all that happens and Superman does return, how are they going to explain Clark Kent's return? That's what, because they buried him. His body was in a casket. Everybody, his friends, his family saw it. If they came and did some like mind eraser wiping thing, I will be like, it could be like the worst piece of shit of all time kind of thing. the only thing I can guess is Flash has a role in it with like some sort of time travel thing where they kind of like, oh, that never happened. But I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, they could try to pull some shit where the body we saw, because I think all we saw was like a hand, didn't we?
We didn't.
I don't know what the fuck.
See a hand? What do you mean?
Like technically, they never showed like Superman's body in the thing, in the casket at the farm.
No, I mean they showed his. It was an open casket.
Did they actually show? I can't remember.
You don't see him. You see the open casket and people walking up to it.
They could always try to pull some shit where that wasn't a real body because they couldn't find the body. Who the fuck knows what they... I agree with you. I'm scared that it's going to be a little cheesy, but I don't know what the fuck they're going to do.
As long as they don't split him into 4 Supermans.
Yeah,
please, for the love of God.
I think they learned their lesson there. Well, kind of briefly, Aquaman and Flash are going to have their own movies after the first Justice League, and I think those will be fun. I think those will give them time. I think they do need their own movies. I'm excited to see Jason Momoa, however you say his name, his portrayal of Aquaman and how they, make his character out to be.
Khal Drogo.
Yeah, I hope it's. I hope it's good. I hope it's not...
I think it'll be good. I do. I think the Flash movie will be our most comedic movie of the DC universe.
Yeah, definitely. I still don't know about the casting for him. I'm not sure.
I didn't mind it. I agree. I don't know if it's what I would have pictured, but I didn't hate it for the little bit that we got. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, yeah, you've seen very little of it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm interested to see who the villains are for those movies, who they end up bringing out for that. But that should be good. And then, of course, after those two, we have Shazam. I don't think there's anything important to talk about Shazam at this point. Nothing.
No, not really.
Nothing at all.
I mean, come on, bro.
It's even in it. I feel like it's not even that important.
I did hear that the guy who played Aquaman, and it was in Blue Mountain State, who played Aquaman in Smallville, he is rumored to play Shazam, actually, right?
I was about to say, come on.
I was like, who? Oh, yeah,
right.
He
used to be called Mr. Marvel until some court debates with Marvel. So
that could be interesting, but I think that's about it. I don't think anybody else.
Yeah, a little tidbit. How's it pronounced? Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Wade.
See, I feel like this is actually the movie that actually could potentially be funny as well.
Well, see, the only problem with this is Black Adam is not a funny character. Now, whoever they cast for potentially Shazam, there is definitely some humor there because he's really like a kid with superpowers. So, but like, Black Adam's just a badass. So,
does he beat jabronis and does he eat pie?
Dude, he's going to toss a fucking people's eyebrow in that movie somewhere, and he's going to rock bottom somebody.
I was just going to say, does The Rock still rock bottom people in all of his movies? Like, is that in his contract?
I've only seen it twice.
I don't think I've seen it since Walking Tall.
I saw Walking Tall and The Scorpion King.
Yeah, I was going to say,
obviously, The Scorpion King was when he was still like...
I mean, to be fair, I think those are the only movies with The Rock I've ever seen, so...
Well, every movie you've seen.
I don't know, he might have rock bottomed someone in The Tooth Fairy.
No, he actually might have rock bottomed Jason Statham in... oh, no, you know what? I think that was like a suplex in one of the Fast and Furious movies.
Gotta love that. Yeah. So after...
The one big thing about that, to tie into the next one, I could see Black Adam becoming a villain in more than just Shazam, for what that's worth.
As long as they can afford The Rock. I mean, he's not exactly the cheapest movie star.
That's true.
He comes at a premium.
You want the best.
You gotta pay for it, I guess, right?
Exactly.
So then they go to Justice League 2. After that, Cyborg will finally get his own movie. A few years after that, honestly, I think this is going to be the struggle movie right here. They got to make Cyborg really interesting in Justice League, and maybe even giving him an appearance in one of these other movies, Aquaman or something, like, to make people really get behind wanting to see this solo movie, I think.
I don't think this is going to be a solo movie. I think this is when they might introduce, I mean, I don't even know if they even talked about it, but even like Green Arrow or something like that, and put him in this movie too.
Yeah.
I think a movie just with Cyborg is going to be a struggle.
It would be Cyboring, right?
Oh,
Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, get it?
Yeah, it would be. All jokes aside, it would be snooze-tastic.
I prefer Cyboring.
Cyborging.
And then after that, there's the Green Lantern Corps in 2020, which is just weird that that's actually going to be like a legitimate year, and it's not too far in the distance,
Jesus Christ!
So we better have nano implants in flying cars by then. It just seems 2020 to me just seems like it's a made up year for sci-fi movies where we're mating with Martians and all of our food you can just like drop water in and you can have like a Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, I highly doubt any of those things will exist.
I think you can.
That's available now.
I was gonna say, I think you can like do that with like water and stuff.
I'm not even gonna entertain you guys.
You haven't entertained our fans in 38 episodes. Why would you start entertaining us right now? We would never expect that from you.
None of you deserve it. None of you.
So that's sort of their like quick lineup. Couple notables is, of course, the Man of Steel sequel. I think Henry Cavill's agent came out and said he was confirmed for that. So that'll be something coming off. The big thing here is they really need to give Superman more time to be a Superman-like character. Haddix, I think you can expand on that. You sort of brought this up, I think, in the last podcast, how his portrayal has just been very like
dark, gloomy, brooding.
Right.
He's Batman.
He really is Batman. Yeah, he's very.
I hope that he comes back in Justice League 1, and he's kind of got like this new outlook where I'm just going to be a superhero. I'm going to save people regardless of what they say. I kind of hope they start to steer away from, in Man of Steel and in Batman vs Superman, it was kind of the whole everyone's split whether we like Superman or not. Some people hate it. I hope they kind of stray away from that storyline a little bit. Like we've got it's not overdone yet, but we've gotten to that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Movies where he's battling whether or not he should be a superhero. You know what I mean? Like
I think that'll play a big role in how much Lex Luthor's involved, because that's always been Lex Luthor's whole gimmick, is trying to get people to not like Superman and to treat him as if he's a potential threat. He's an alien. He shouldn't be trusted. We shouldn't be giving him so much, leeway on things. He needs to be kept on a leash or killed. So as long as that's still around, that I think that storyline is going to linger.
I'm okay with that side of it. I just, in the comics and stuff, that's always happened too. But Superman has always just done the right thing anyway. He still saves people. He still does what he does, even when people hate him. Like in the past 2 movies, it's been like, oh, should I be doing this? You know what I mean? Like that whole brooding shit. And that's what I hope they get away from.
Teenager inner monologue kind of thing.
Like make him the
Spider-Man 3-ish.
That's what I hope we get from Superman.
I agree. What other thing? Is there a particular villain you'd like to see in this one? Obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. There's a good chance Lex Luthor will be a part of it, depending on how Justice League goes and when this gets released. But any thoughts on who you guys would like to see?
I mean, I don't know if there's a particular one. I think there's a lot of decent ones they could pick from, like a Lobo. If they
a lot of DC ones, right? Right, guys? Because it's DC Comics.
Don't laugh. Every time you laugh, you just create more.
Well, no, I was thinking in my head. I was thinking that we could have like sound drops where we just play crickets. Like that.
I'm the one who controls the soundboard, dude. So I'll just put the laughter track in when I make good jokes.
Sorry, there you can just click on it if I remember correctly. It'll just turn on.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one it is. I think it's this one, but I'd have to play around with it. For me, I think Brainiac would be a good one to bring in here, and makes the most sense as a direct sequel to Man of Steel with the ship being already here and things like that. And there's a chance, Brainiac was a part of what gave Luthor his knowledge and that kind of thing. So I would be okay with the Brainiac villain in this one.
The only thing I could definitely see that. The only thing that could also make sense is Brainiac is a big enough villain that you could do a Justice League around it. So I could see them saying, let's introduce him, but some shit. Who knows what the fuck they're gonna do? But yeah, right. I definitely would like to see him at some point, whenever that may be.
And then after that, we've got the Harley Quinn spin-off prequel, something or another. All we know is Margot Robbie is going to co-direct, produce, that kind of thing with it. No more details at this point. It doesn't sound like it's going to be the Jared Leto Joker Harley Quinn prequel like some people had hoped or thought it might be, but that's about it, and that could change. And then the other big thing we do know is Batman's getting his solo film. Affleck is going to star and direct in it. And Deathstroke has been cast by the guy whose name I can never pronounce. So Haddix,
Joe Manganiello?
Yeah, there you go. I think he was in Vampire Diaries, wasn't he in one of those? Or True Blood or something? Yeah, there we go. Same thing.
He was also
it's always Kiser's second guess.
He was also in Pee-wee's new movie on Netflix, One Tree Hill, which I think you had said, Haddix, and some other things.
He was in fucking...
That's your jam, Haddix.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, what hell did I just say? He was in... shit. What movie did I just say? Oh, he was in How I Met Your Mother. He was Marshall's, bro that he goes on a brunch with.
Oh, that's right. Yep, he sure was. So I think that's cool.
He was also in Magic Mike. Not saying I know that. I'm just saying.
Oh God, this guy. This is the only thing he offers.
I was gonna say this guy ends my joke with boners and then brings up Magic Mike is where he knows Joe Manganiello from.
I'm trying to hit the female demographic, okay? And if it was just one thing I know, or two things I know: women love Magic Mike and boners.
I think that's right. Those are your two favorites.
I was gonna say. I think that's if Hoagie's list podcast topic next week could be just anything he wants, we know it would be.
I'll try to contain myself for the ladies.
So it'd be cool. Deathstroke on the big screen. I think that's an interesting choice because it's not a well-known villain. Where typically the Batman movies, because so many of the villains are iconic and well-known. It's an interesting choice for one, but I think it's a fun one. Depending on, how they end up doing it, what kind of level, or not level, what kind of position Batman's in at that point. If this is late in his career, is it supposed to be a sequel? Is it just going to be just a one-off movie? Do you know any more, Haddix?
I mean, I think it's going to be sequel-ish, I guess. I mean, I think they'll probably mention Superman and all that, but it's kind of like we talked about last week. I think you got to be careful of mentioning too much, because then people are like, oh, well, then why doesn't Wonder Woman come help you? You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I definitely think it's playing, and I could definitely see some more Batman movies in the future. And
just because Deathstroke got cast doesn't mean that that's going to be the only bad guy. I mean, we might get something. There's not even a release date or year for this. So, I mean, we'll start finding out that maybe this is going to be a lot of more of an asylum type of movie, and you're going to have more than just Deathstroke, or Deathstroke helps break people out of the asylum. Then you start getting, Penguin and Riddler and everybody like that, and that would be an interesting way of doing it too.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted an asylum movie. The video games, I think, have been so well done. I think they need to make a live action movie of that. It's very dark. As we can move into our fanboy wishes of what kind of movies we'd like to see. And that's one I would, especially if it was just a one-off movie. do a very dark movie. You know, Scarecrow can be one of the main villains if you want to make it, you know, very fear-infused thriller kind of thing. Or you put Hugo Strange. I think he would be a good option there. And, you know, just make it very dark. Make it sort of a, you know, play on the detective side of Batman, something that has really been glossed over, I feel like, in all of the movies.
In every movie, yeah.
Have they done any good? I mean, it's very generic detective work. They kind of show it. It's mostly like he goes in and grabs something and then his Bat computer produces it.
I always thought a great Batman movie would be a mix of the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movies with like a scary movie.
Right.
Where you kind of get like, he kind of narrates things like while he's, you know, going like, you know how.
Oh, where he's
like a murder thriller type of thing.
Like, you know,
yeah, but like
in Sherlock.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm going to punch this guy here, decapitate him, or whatever, you know.
Right. He analyzes the whole thing. He's going to go to the right. I'm going to duck here. By leverage, I'll be able to push this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And do that mixed also with the detective side of it. Or like, you know, you show him walking around a crime scene, but he's like talking, like some inner monologue going on, but also a little bit more scary. Like I always, a dark Riddler movie where,
a Dark Knight Riddler movie, right?
Yeah, Dark Knight Riddler movie, yeah, where he's like leaving clues and killing people, and Batman's trying to solve these, you know, murder. Like, that would be so fucking cool, I always thought. I mean, I don't even need a fight scene in that movie. Like,
no, you really don't. It doesn't, you know, obviously you're going to have to throw a little bit in there because you got to please everybody, and some won't enjoy a Batman movie without action. But I think a thriller kind of, it would be very different from, you know, all these comic book movies. At the end of the day are, you know, similar action movies. It'd be nice to have these one-off kind of, you know, take some liberties, do something different that's not being done in all these other ones.
Well, after I got done, I actually just got done playing it too, Haddix. I got Haddix the Telltale series for Batman, and it's very much like it's a video game, but there's really no action other than you kind of choose the actions he does. But it's all really more of like a sleuth type of game. And I really enjoyed it. I feel like they could adapt that to a movie where, you know, he's perched up on a building looking across to like, you know, like a gang ring of, you know, a bunch of like gangsters, like standing at different parts of the room. And he kind of like maps out, okay, I'm going to, you know, incapacitate this guy first, knock him down, go in, throw the gas. And he kind of plays out, once again, kind of like the whole Sherlock idea. I definitely agree. I know it might not be too exciting to watch for like the every moviegoer, but I'm an every moviegoer, and I would definitely enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's something different. It's not something that probably the comics hit a whole lot of, and maybe that's the reason why there has been a whole lot of movies about it, because I think they try to be more closer to the comics in the action. But then again, I've only read maybe a dozen or so Batman comics, so I mean, I'll defer to Haddix if there's really been a whole lot of issues.
The comics actually do a very good job, especially Justice League comics, of making Batman a lot more of the mental side. Because obviously he can't go toe-to-toe with some of Superman's villains. So he's always a strategist. He's always the detective. He's the one that has the whole plan mapped out well before anyone else does. I mean, they do a very good job, and that's like what the movies never touch on. Again, maybe it's because it's not very thrilling. Like Kiser was saying, people don't want to go to a movie just to see that. I don't know, but I just think it'd be so good.
I think they look at all these Batman movies that have been successful, and what are the overlying stories? You get an interesting villain, and you have fight scenes and that kind of action thing. So they don't want to ruin a good thing. I just wish. And it's a problem with Hollywood in general, I think, with their movies. Nobody wants to take a risk anymore. And especially with movies like this that have huge budgets, because a Batman movie will have a big budget. I would just love to see, you know, like Suicide Squad in some ways was like, let's try something different for comic book movies in some ways. I wish they would say, let's do something different with Batman and treat... Let's do something that hasn't been done with Batman, because at the end of the day, how many of these Batman movies all start out with the origin story, his parents, you know, he gets trained, and there's a Joker, there's, that kind of thing. Like, don't get me wrong, the Nolan movies were great. The 90s movies were the 90s movies. And
I think once Tim Burton stopped being a part of it, I think it took that nosedive. But once again, Ben Affleck's going to direct it, so I mean, that could be what maybe we need in order to create a different Batman movie.
Right.
You don't have your normal, action movie, director taking care of it this time around. You have a guy who is an Oscar-winning director.
Yeah,
it's true. It'll be interesting to see what he does with his movie and if they do anything else. Me personally, another fanboy movie that I really want is I didn't realize I wanted it until Haddix brought up the Legion of Doom. I want a Legion of Doom movie. I think the villains in DC are so interesting. That's why I wanted Arkham Asylum, because I think the Batman villains are so cool, and putting them together I think would be great. But then put together the Legion of Doom. I want to see Luthor. I want to see Joker, not Leto's Joker, but I want to see, put Solomon Grundy in there. I don't care. Make it even if it's a Super Friends movie and make it corny as hell. I don't even care. I want to see that. I love the Super Friends, and I'm not afraid to admit it, even though it was the stupidest, cheesiest frickin' 1970s cartoon that you can have. I would love a Legion of Doom movie. And, I want to see it. I want it.
Were the Wonder Twins part of the Super Friends, or was that a completely different show?
They were part of the Super Friends had various people in it, and the Wonder Twins at one point were part of that. Yes.
Okay. I would pay money immediately if they told me that the Wonder Twins were going to get casted, just because you have the one guy who always turns into something that's made out of water.
Hey,
he's always like a sheet of ice or like a bucket of ice water or something.
I love that. I love the Family Guy joke where he's like turns into a tampon. Goes in the purse.
Shape of Janus tampon.
That is foul, my friend. Foul.
Oh, it is. It really is.
But yeah, that's just one thing. I would love to see a Legion of Doom movie. In seriousness, I guess the Super Friends thing wouldn't happen, but I would love to see a Legion of Doom movie. And honestly, I think this would be the best time to do it if you want to tie it into the universe, is when Batman's out, because that, to me, is when it would make most sense that they would be able to do it, because Superman can take out half of the, Legion of Doom if he wanted to, pretty easily. So it would be cool to have it when he's not around, and they could, get Hawkman and things like that involved, right?
I think a Hawkman, Hawkgirl could actually be really good, and I haven't seen the Legends of Tomorrow TV show, but I feel like if done correctly,
they are literally the worst part of that.
Oh, okay, yeah. If done correctly, I think they could be very. And again, that whole storyline is another storyline you could do a Justice League movie around, because the whole Thanagarian race, you could do a lot of shit with it. So I hope they do that correctly at some point too.
Yeah, and I could definitely see them turn it into a good movie. Like you said, introduce them in a Justice League and then have them have their own movie afterwards. How about either of you, any other fanboy type movies that you would really like to see, or something that hasn't been done, or something that you hope they will do, even if it's like a long shot?
I don't know.
I think as soon as I heard that Deathstroke was being casted, I was happy for that. Because if he wasn't going to be in those movies, I think that would have been a really cool. I'm not saying give him his own movie, because Deathstroke does not earn. There's nothing to justify giving Deathstroke his own movie. But I would really like to see him be the main villain for once. And that's why I'm saying, like, he would be the perfect. He's always been like the gun for hire type of guy, and so like somebody higher up is paying him to do these things. And I feel like that would tie into like a Legion of Doom type of thing, where Luthor wants to, attract these other people, or to grab people from the asylum, so he pays Deathstroke to go in and, you know, break into the asylum and free all these people, and then kind of create this, you know, help to create this group. And then that's Batman's adversary to try and stop that from happening. So once again, I don't know how Deathstroke is going to be involved in the solo film, but we know he's going to be in it. And I hope it's something much bigger than just him being a guy that is just, you know, just there as a nuisance. I really hope that he gets a decent amount of time in the movie.
And I think he will. I think he's going to be a main focus of the movie. I think he'll be... I don't know if he'll be the only villain in it, but I do think he's going to be kind of causing mayhem and not just like, all right, let's swat him out of the way so I can focus on insert other villain here kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to introduce... I mean, I feel like in the origin movie of Wonder Woman, maybe they won't introduce other villains per se, but I've always been a big fan of Cersei as well.
I can see him bringing her in.
Oh, I mean, but do you see it happening that early, or do you think that maybe she pops up in like the Shazam movie and Wonder Woman shows up there too?
I wouldn't be surprised if they introduced her, because you can't. The problem with doing a Wonder Woman origin story is there's not a lot of villains that would be around at that time that wouldn't be around now, other than another, you know, goddess or whatever, like Cersei. So I could definitely see them doing that. I don't know if they're going to, but I could see that happening. I mean, you know, there's a couple other Wonder Woman villains that are gods or goddesses. So I mean, it could be one of them as well. But you're not gonna. Her like main villain is like Cheetah or whatever her name is. She's not gonna be in the movie. Like she wasn't alive then. So
unless she's,
I always thought Cersei was her main.
Well,
villain.
I mean, she's up there, but a lot of times it's her against Cheetah.
Yeah. So. We'll see. I think that's about all I've got as far as fanboy stuff, and if you guys don't have anything else.
No, I don't think I do. I mean, I just hope that I hope we get a better Superman. That's my big That's my
maybe we're thinking too much about a wish list and saying, like, let's just hope that these other movies are good.
Well, and that's the last thing we were going to kind of end on here as we wrap up is what do they need to change? What do they need to do? Because I think we all agree that they're not at the level Marvel's at, and they want to be. So what do they need to do to get there? To get, you know, these criticisms, you know, nullified? Like what can they do?
I think my two big things would be, and I'll generalize the Superman thing. They need to stay true to the characters more, which they've done a good job on the little bit we've seen of Wonder Woman. And, you know, I've enjoyed Affleck's Batman, you know, that version of it. Again, changing Superman a little bit. I hope Lex Luthor kind of comes into his own a little bit more. Things like that. And my other big one would probably be, I don't want to say get a little less serious, because I'm okay with the more serious tone.
Why so serious?
I knew that was coming. But just you know, ease things up a little bit when it comes to the drama. And again, that kind of plays into the whole Superman thing. Like, make some of the movie a little lighthearted. You know, it doesn't always have to be so dark and dreary.
Yeah, so it's more let's not take ourselves so serious and work on their character development.
Again, I don't want them to revert to a Marvel thing where it's all kind of light and fun and kids centralized, but a little bit more. Like, you know, just a little bit.
I think the only thing I don't like about the seriousness is that even most of the time that I've seen the other movies of Batman is that when he's Bruce Wayne, he's usually pretty even keel and laid back. Like, he's not, even Ben Affleck playing Bruce Wayne is really kind of dark and sullen. And it's almost kind of weird, because I feel like he's definitely more of like the outgoing, I wouldn't say he's like the playboy that a lot of the other movies have sometimes made him out to be, but he's like I said, Affleck's version is definitely much more grizzled. Like, you know, I'm not the young Batman or the young Bruce Wayne anymore, and it's just like the weight of the world is definitely much worse at his older, you know, his more advanced years.
Yeah, definitely. Hoagland, anything else that you want to change or you think that they should do going forward?
I think my biggest wish of change is, and I think they've done I think they've done a good job, so I think they need to continue with it, is give me good villains. If they can give me a villain to hold on to and like really enjoy, because I think Marvel has always, Marvel has been lukewarm at best with the villains. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the biggest criticism of Marvel movies in general, that is their villains are pretty bland.
Yeah, give me somebody to truly hate or fear, and maybe when Thanos comes, maybe that'll make it up a little bit for Marvel, and that'll be a big payoff. But for right now, if I want a really serious antagonist very soon, and I want that character to be here now. I don't want a build up. I don't think that's necessary. I want something that's going to make me want to be like, oh God, what's going to happen in the next movie? Because there's a real threat that's there. And I think if they were to strengthen and keep moving towards having a real, adversary in these movies, I think that'll make up for, the lack of writing that we've seen as far as the development with the good guys.
That's fair. I'm with you there. As far as me, the only thing I'll add, other than what you guys kind of all said already, is don't worry about Marvel. Do your thing. Don't rush. Just know that, like, let you're DC. Do your thing. Let them do their thing. They've been developing and they've been working on it. Don't try to rush everything, because it just turns out to be worse. So if they could just focus on themselves and what they're doing and work on what they're doing, and ignore the competition, I think they'd be better off. And that's all I've got to say on that.
#deep.
So that's gonna be the podcast for the week. We've kind of briefed on what the future movies are, our thoughts. Why don't you guys reach out to us, as you guys always do, on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that. pseudonerdpod.com, where you can find all of our social media handles, and you can let us know what you think they need to do. What are your fanboy or fangirl wishes for the future of DC movies? From the home of the 2003 Academy Award nominated for Best Screenplay adaptation for a film, American Splendor, the biographical comedy drama based off the comic of the same name that was sometimes published by DC Comics, to the home of May 1990's 51st Nielsen-ranked made-for-TV live-action movie Archie, to Riverdale and Back Again, based off the comic book series Archie, who licensed their MLJ comic heroes to DC in 1991. Yeah, that's their connection to DC. What do you guys want from me? It is a month-long topic about comic books that, unlike Marvel, are not technically set in real U.S. cities.
This blew my mind.
I am Josh Kiser, he is Josh Haddix, and he is Kyle Hoagland, and we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
See ya.